Hi there, and welcome to the Live Vybrant Podcast, where we explore how to live with energy, purpose, and intention. I'm your host, Joshua Haag, a holistic lifestyle, performance, and success coach with a background in professional sports and 2 decades of coaching experience. Each week, I sit down with experts across a multitude of fields, including wellness, finance, and personal growth, to uncover practical strategies that will help you thrive in every area of life. Let's dive in and help you live your most vibrant life. Excited to have on Glenn Braunstein today. He's the owner of Pulse Performance Studio in Atlanta. It's been open about a year. It is leading the way in some really cool tech training. And honestly, it's been a big hot topic out here. I've been asked by so many of our people, what is going on with EMS training and kind of this revolutionary or this new kind of push in terms of a different style of training. So I'm really excited to unravel that today with Glenn. Welcome to the podcast, Glenn.
Thank you, Josh. I look forward to it. Appreciate you having me.
So tell me a little bit about you, a little bit about Pulse, kind of give the listeners the overall background here.
Yeah, so my background being in this industry is very untraditional, I should say. I spent 30 years in technology selling large-scale applications to large businesses. I spent the last decade and a half at a very large cloud provider most people have probably heard of called Salesforce.com, led national teams in the sales arena. My lifelong passion has always been fitness and wellness. And a couple of years ago, I left Salesforce and decided to leave the whole entire industry and really go chase my passion, which, like I said, has been fitness and wellness since I was a kid. And being that I had a long-standing tech affiliation, love technology, and because I really appreciated the limited amount of time a lot of working professionals have to train and stay fit. Well, I stumbled upon and fell in love with this concept that Pulse Performance provides, which is the business I now started just over a year ago. We started as a franchise. There was a franchise in Austin, Texas that I bought into. I then became the first franchisee to take it outside of Texas. And right now I'm in Atlanta. I'm expand to have a few more locations. But the whole premise of what we do here at Pulse is helping people get fit, build muscle, burn fat, and do it fast. And the flagship offering, if you will, that we provide is called EMS training, electrical muscle stimulation. We'll definitely go into details on that. They're 20-minute classes, and they deliver the equivalent of spending 2 to 3 hours in the gym. So again, going back to 30 years in tech, traveling a lot on the road, didn't have a lot of time. I love the concept of being able to help people get in shape and do it fast with a light investment of time on their side. And that's one of a few different services. We also do other things here. We do body sculpting to help really double down and target key areas that people want to, build a six-pack abs, tighten their glutes, whatever it might be. We also have infrared, which speeds up recovery. And then one of the neatest things we do here, we have what we call a 3D body composition scanner that helps people get a very thorough analysis of their full muscle and fat composition in their body. And we use that to track their progress over time, because we're very, very results focused, and that's the main thing we do here.
Man, I love that. But all basically the big 4 that you listed are all huge hot topics in fitness right now. What would be the first one you want to dissect? Because I've got some good questions for each of them.
Well, we can go with the elephant in the room with EMS being a hot thing, or we could save the best for last. Let's start with body sculpting, if you're giving me the option.
Body sculpting? All right. So what is it? Why do I need it? Why do I care?
Yeah. So body sculpting is a premier service that is for people who have very targeted areas that they want to build lean muscle and burn fat and do it very quickly. So I have a licensed esthetician who works for me here in my studio. She has a few different devices that are tools, to her in her fingertips, where depending on the client's needs and goals, she, in a matter of as little as sometimes 2 to 4 sessions, upwards of maybe 6 to 8, depending on the extent that somebody's trying to make progress, she can literally just literally sculpt muscles in very targeted areas to meet those person's goals. So as an example.
What is this using? Like you said some tools, but is this like cryo? Is this using the cold tool? Tell me about what it is actually.
Yeah, no. So the cold is something that most people ask when they hear about this, because Cool Sculpting has a very large brand in the industry. What we do is it's called TrueFlex Body Sculpting. And the difference is Whereas cool sculpting, what it does is it chills and compresses and basically shrinks your fat cells. You still maintain those in the body. And so over time, they can kind of regenerate themselves or kind of, re-expand themselves. What we do with TrueFlex, it uses a technology called multi-dimensional stimulation, similar to electrical muscle stimulation, which we'll talk about with the suits in a minute here. With multi-dimensional stimulation, what it does is uses a set of pads, electrical pads, that my esthetician puts on the body, again, in key areas. Let's use the core. Let's use the six-pack, wanting to get six-pack abs as an example. She'd put 4 of these pads on the abs, and they send electrical currents in all different directions, hence multidimensional stimulation, into the underlying muscles. And your brain rapidly contracts those muscles over the course of as little, it's really just a 15-minute period. And by doing that, the rapid stimulation of, I think it's over 100 stimulations per second. That's what ultimately builds and creates the muscle definition. She also has another device called cavitation, which is kind of popular in the industry. What cavitation does is it compresses the fat cells down and drains them out of your lymphatic system. So we always talk about those being like a 1-2 punch. If you want those monster abs, the body sculpting will tighten the muscles and build lean muscle for you. Cavitation then will kind of take off that trim layer of fat on the top and reveal them for you.
So then with the TrueFlex, what's the difference between what she's using and some of the stuff that I can find on Amazon? Because I've always kind of thought and been skeptical of like the pads that you can stick on that sit there, and I've always thought it was low level stim. Is there a difference? Is there not? Are they somewhat similar?
Yeah, so there's a variety. There's so many products out there, right? I mean, you go on Amazon, you can find zillions of products that come out of China and all that. The first thing is quality. One is we have commercial grade, very high end commercial grade equipment here, right? That's kind of the first and easy answer. But the second is really how effective it works. Because again, when I talk about multi-dimensional stimulation, a lot of the products you see on the market are just doing a lower level frequency, a lower level of intensity that's not getting as deep into the muscle. And then the third part I'll tell you about that is a lot of products out there. People confuse electrical muscle stimulation with TENS units. And TENS units are very popular, right? I mean, you obviously, TENS units are.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Anybody who's in the health and wellness industry, anybody who's in physical therapy as a patient or a provider, TENS is like the well-known industry name.
It's the go-to.
It is the go-to. And so what TENS does is, and it stands for actually I forgot what the acronym is, but it goes just beneath the skin and stimulates the nerves to basically...
Transdermal electrical neuromuscular stimulation.
There you go. Beautiful.
Got it.
Love it. There you go. I love it. I can remember that one now. So it goes just to the surface of the muscle, just underneath the skin, to really get rid of the pain from the communication of the nerves to the brain. What EMS does is it's a different frequency and a higher intensity that goes deeper into the muscle. So the beauty of EMS is we actually go deeper into the muscles, and multidimensional, by the way, is the same thing with TrueFlex. We're going deeper into the muscle than A, you can get to with the TENS machine, which is the majority of the devices you see out there. And B, we do it deeper and deeper into the muscle than you can do traditionally, like in a weightlifting in the gym.
Interesting. And by multi-directional, you mean literally the actual direction of the stimulant going into the muscle is on like multiple planes, right? Where like a TENS unit is kind of down and then they connect from one pad, one positive to one negative, right? It's just a direct line across where you're kind of going down at different arcs, correct?
You got it, man. Yeah. So when we talk about the EMS training, when we talk about the EMS fitness, it's just like you described, 2 pads communicating back and forth. That's EMS. But you're right, multidimensional, it's 4 pads. Okay. So it's 4 pads per section of the body. So again, let's say we're doing the core. What we would do is we do 4 pads on the front of the core, and then we do 2 pads on either side of the obliques. And like you just described, and there's different settings in the machine, and they control the direction that the stimulation's going based on where somebody is in their journey of the treatments. So for example, not to get too technical, but they might communicate like pad 1 to pad 2 and then pad 3 to pad 4 at the beginning of the journey, like when they're just starting off the sculpting process, the first session or 2. But then as they start building a little muscle, then it starts going more diagonally, right? And it's like the pads are communicating, across each other. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So over time, you're adding more and more dimensions to it, right?
You got it. Makes sense.
Okay, totally makes sense. Is this anything, have you ever heard of M-Sculpt?
Yeah, so M-Sculpt is EMS sculpting. So M-Sculpt is one big pad with two sensors, like you described a second ago, that just go straight down beneath where the pad is. So like if I want to sculpt my hand and I have M-Sculpt, I put the pad right here, and it's basically going from one electrode to the other, and that's where the stimulation's going. Whereas again, multidimensional with TrueFlex, we'd have two pads here, and they're going all different directions.
Totally makes sense. So do you find the multi-dimension aspect, but TrueFlex is kind of the cream of the crop? Then you'll look at your, M-Sculpt or other eStim products. Like TrueFlex is like light years beyond, so to speak.
I would absolutely say that. It's certainly how we differentiate ourselves, because M-Sculpt and CoolSculpt definitely have the industry well-known brand, right? Not a lot of people have heard of TrueSculpt. But, M-Sculpt and CoolSculpt are more well-known, but I believe pretty strongly this multi-dimensional stimulation is a huge differentiator of why it's a more effective technology.
And now, do you only use it for a sculpting component, or would this be able to be used for a PT or a pain management concept as well?
I mean, it could be used for pain management. It might be a little overkill, in my personal opinion.
Too intense.
It might be. I don't know if it's using, what's the term? Like using a hammer to, fix I forgot the metaphor. What I'm saying?
I get it though. You're bringing way too much machinery to do something very minimal.
I think so. Yeah. Now for PT, I still think the same thing, because what we're really trying to do in sculpting the muscle is different than in a PT capacity where you're trying to rehab the muscle. That's how I would look at it. Now, again, I'm not speaking on behalf of Kutera, which is the company that makes it. They may very well use it, and sell it to other medical providers for that reason. I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
And you said that Kutera?
Kutera, Cutera. They're the makers of the TrueFlex
machine. Look into it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're not to, just to give them a little bit of a airtime. I mean, what's cool about them is a
little fluff.
Yeah, let's see if they're going to give me a commission check later on this one. But they're a strong leader out there in the aesthetics industry overall. So the body sculpting piece is one area, but where they have really built most of their business over the years is like laser treatments and a lot of like the aesthetic stuff around face and skin and all that. The muscle piece of TrueSculpt is just one of their areas.
Very cool.
But that's a digression.
No, it's okay. And honestly, not to change the subjects, but we've danced so much around it already. Now, TrueFlex is that multi-dimensional, but your bread and butter for the facility is EMS training, correct?
Yep.
All right, dive into that. That is a huge fad out here. I'm asked about it all the time. I'm asked for my opinions, and I don't want to say anything in terms of my thoughts on it yet because I have a background with it in terms of we talked a little bit. But
we did.
Tell me about EMS training. What is it used for? How do I use it? How do I get access? Like, just tell me about the whole thing, the whole profile.
Yeah, love it. So first off, let me give you the pitch, and then we'll dive down into the details. So EMS training is, and I kind of alluded, I think I said a little this earlier, but it's a 20-minute workout led by a professional coach or trainer. And in that 20 minutes, using the power of electricity, you're getting the benefits of spending 2 to 3 hours in the gym. And you only need to do it once, twice a week, maybe 3 times. But even that's, you don't even need to a lot. And the way it works is through the power of electricity. We use, and by the way, where EMS really evolved from is the world of PT. So it's been used in physical therapy for decades upon decades. It also was used for fitness training in isolation a couple times over the last half century. I don't know if you ever saw Bruce Lee movies where he hooked himself up to like electrical currents, or Drago training to fight Rocky, and Rocky
IV, absolutely.
Yeah. You remember him on the treadmill with all the electrodes and everything?
100%.
Yeah, so that's EMS, all right? EMS started in years. EMS has been around, like I said, as a technology to help PT and in isolated areas for decades. It really started in the world of fitness for what's called whole body EMS training about 7 to 8 years ago. It originated in Germany. It quickly took off in Germany, took off throughout Europe, and really just came over to the States about 5-6 years ago. The power. So what I was saying earlier, the way it works is EMS uses electrical currents, basically stimulate the nerves on your major muscle parts to have the nerve communicate. And I'm going kind of geeky down to the details here, but the nerve is communicating to the brain to say, stimulate the muscle, fire the muscle. And so the brain rapidly, because it does about 85 times a second, it's 85 hertz, that's 85 times a second, it's stimulating your muscle 85 times a second. And our coaches have a little console, a little iPad device, where they can control the intensity of all the different muscle areas as you're doing this 20-minute workout.
And how am I connected to this?
You're connected to this with this bad boy right here.
Okay, so for those just listening, it's a big old suit, almost looks like a scuba suit. And there's you keep going, Glenn. I wanted to paint a picture for those who might not actually be watching.
I didn't realize you have an audio piece of this too, but yes. So basically it looks like you said a scuba suit. These little areas here, for those just listening, I'm squeezing like just various different body parts. These are the pads. So these pads have electrical, they're electrical pads, there's electrical
units
inside it. Our particular suits, there's various different concepts out there. Like you said, I think you're in LA, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure in LA it's pretty big. If you went to a couple different EMS facilities, there's a couple different types out there of how they deliver it. Ours is a full body suit. It has 12 sets of electrodes from the deltoids all the way down to the calves. And again, that's where our trainers then can control them independently. So there's a few really cool benefits of this. One is that we are going, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'll repeat it again. We are going deeper into the muscle than you can do on your own in the gym. So if you go and do a bicep curl, you do any kind of lift whatsoever, and you're stimulating the muscle with your brain, you're only stimulating the outer side, the upper part of the muscle that's actually has the workload against it. With EMS, we're able to go deeper into the muscle. And so we have people who come in here who've been lifting for 30, 40 years, 50 years, doesn't matter. And they come in, they're like, yeah, this won't bother me. This is fine. I can do this. They walk out sore, and you walk out sore because it goes deeper in the muscles than you've ever been. The other nice thing about it is because the EMS is doing a good part of the work, we don't need to lift heavy weights. So like if you looked at my gym, I got a couple of dumbbell racks, I got kettlebells, and then I have a bunch of kind of body weight type exercise equipment. And so if you look at the demographic of the people who we have here, we have a lot of folks in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, because we're not putting any undue stress on the joints. We're not putting any undue stress on the lower back because we don't need the weight, because the EMS is what's doing, is firing the intensity for the muscles.
Now that's great. That makes a lot of sense for a low compressive concept. But what about the thought process that load is good on the body? At some level, compression, lifting heavy things is good for us in the long term. If I were to argue we talk about osteo issues in that older demographic. Is it something that it's just missed? Because realistically, that load, that heavy pressure is what's going to cause bone density to grow. Is there any help in terms of EMS, works with that or not, or anything like that?
Yeah, well, when it comes to the heavy load, I don't at all disagree that that's super beneficial. I will say EMS, if I look at it, would be more of a substitute to the heavy load. One thing that you won't see as much is for people who really want to build mass, just bulk massive muscle. EMS might not be the right target for that. But what it does is it builds solid, dense, lean muscle, if that makes sense. So,
and I think this is an important kind of note for the listeners, right? You can see those bodybuilders walking around and they're real poofy, but they can't pick up a lot of weight. You can also go and see some of the world's strongest men who don't look, they're large people, but they don't look poofy with their muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they can pick up 1,000,000 pounds. Your muscle fibers, there is a concept of density, right? And the ability to create force and tension. So what he's saying is the suits, while it might not make you bigger or poofier, it does allow a tighter knit in terms of the actual muscle density, as well as it's increasing your neurological connection, right? When he talks about going deeper into the muscle, he's talking about increasing your neurological connection to that specific area. And in turn, it allows you to move more and lift more. because your muscle is basically, you have more knowledge of that specific grouping, so to speak, right? It's something that happens subconsciously. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
I think, I agree. And just to add one more thing into that, that whole mind-body connection, I think, a really good example of that is we have a lot of people who have knee issues. They come here. They don't come here for rehab. We don't do that. We draw the line of fitness versus rehab, but they come here when they have a knee injury. And oftentimes it's a lot of, it's folks that maybe just, later generations, right? Or, age. The beauty of EMS on knees is, I mentioned earlier, we don't lift a lot on the joints. I mean, we don't put a lot of heavy weight in the joints, right? So it's taking the pressure off the knees. But we can build the glutes very effectively with EMS so that when they're walking upstairs or walking downstairs, we're taking all that pressure off the knee because of the build of the glutes. And by the same token, kind of to what you're saying, we're also building a little more of a mind-body connection to the glutes. Because, if you think about, a lot of people just don't really know how to engage the glutes the proper way when they go up and down stairs, right? And that's why the knees take on so much force. But by building that mind-body connection, it gives them a little more focus and conscious focus on, really be able to contract those glutes as they're walking and take the pressure off the knee.
Absolutely. I'm curious as to why you don't do any therapy with the EMS suits.
By the way, so your question earlier, remember, was on TrueFlex when I said that. Yeah, for EMS, I will say there's definitely a practical use for it. We don't do it because we're not licensed therapists.
Got it. You're not a physical therapist. Got it.
Exactly. I will say, though, the company that makes my suits is called Vision Body. They do have an arm of the practice. An arm of the business that is focused on medical practitioners. And they have suits that aren't, you think about it, if you have a knee injury and you need EMS, which will benefit you, you don't need to put on a whole suit. But they have different pieces of equipment that have the EMS technology that are using more in a physical therapy session, because it is definitely beneficial.
Yeah, I had made a note about how I was connected to EMS. And when I did my football career, there was a recovery center called Resilience Code. It was connected up in Denver. It's connected to the Broncos. With that, it's led, or at the time it was led by Dr. Pressmack, who is their head neurosurgeon, the Broncos head neurosurgeon. And in turn, he had a lot of the players going down there in between different practices and different moments or trainings and things like that. And he would have us on different EMS pieces. It may not have been a full body suit. I had a major shoulder reconstruction at one point. So I wore almost something that looked like a half t-shirt that kind of Velcroed across. And they had me doing different positioning drills, basic stuff on light TheraBands. But in turn, it was to basically activate and strengthen, right, in that PT setting. But you're trying to basically, like I said, turn on specific groupings. So that way, when I got to the field, I was not fatigued from heavy load, but I did have access to that group. So it was really cool to see this used as not only a physical therapy drill or tool, but also like a recovery methodology as well.
Yeah, that's great. Great example.
I'm a big fan. It's cool. It's cool to see it starting to make its way out here. So there's one or two studios that I know of, and obviously there's probably more, but it's something where I haven't had the opportunity or the chance to be able to really talk to somebody about it, to be able to give really quality feedback to some of my clients. This is perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to add, when you talk about the weightlifting conversation as it relates to EMS, I would say a vast majority of my clients are working professionals, busy as heck, and this is all they do. And they do it because they know that they need to build muscle to stay healthy. They know that, longevity requires strength and health from that, we need to build muscle into our older years to stay healthy and increase longevity. So we have a lot of folks who just come here because that's all they care to do. We do have other folks, though, who are gym rats, and they still love working out. And so I don't ever say quit the gym and just do EMS. If they want to pump iron, they want to go to the gym, if they even like the social aspect, because a lot of people do, by all means, do it. But then you only really have to, even if you come here once a week, maybe twice a week, you're basically accelerating the goals and accelerating the progress you make in the gym. So it's a good synergy.
So I'm a big like you're talking about synergy. I'm a big believer in tools in the toolbox. And I love my clients. I work with them one-on-one. I do therapy for people, the whole 9 yards. I love having them do different classes of different methodologies, this Pilates and yoga and spin class and strength training here and all that. How would I incorporate or build this into a program for somebody? So let's say I lived in Atlanta. I'm still a one-on-one trainer. My person saw this. How do I work that out? How do I build it into my normal strength programs? Is this just all I do? Do I do it as a supplementation thing? Like it's a little piece to it? Like, how do I build it out?
And are you talking about you as in a personal trainer, or you as in one of your clients?
I'm talking right now, how do I, as a client, implement this into my routine? I, as a trainer, will use it as a reference, but like I'm trying to put myself into the listener's shoes who may hear this and try and say, "Oh, I want to try that," but I don't know how to work it into what I already have going on.
Yeah. So the answer is it depends, right? The great cliche. It really does, because it all depends on their specific goals, and it depends on their current lifestyle. And, going back to what I said a minute ago, some people come in here and they love the gym. They love their Pilates. They love their yoga. By all means, keep it up. But then my question is, what are you trying to achieve? And by when are you trying to achieve it? And if they have, pretty aggressive strength building goals, or I wouldn't even call it strength, if they have aggressive goals to, lean up, tone up, build muscle, burn fat, then we'll incorporate a program that's probably once or twice a week in addition to what they're currently doing. If it's somebody who, like I said, doesn't do anything else, then we'll probably say, come here 3 times a week, because this is, you're going to get the most bang for the buck. But it really depends, so the other thing is, because EMS is pretty intense on the muscles, we do ask for 48 hours of rest between EMS sessions, and we ask for 24 hours of rest between heavy weightlifting. Answer your question specifically, like if somebody is a heavy duty weightlifter and wants to incorporate it in the routine, we'll sit with them and work out a schedule where, if you're going to EMS with us on a Monday night, we don't want you going to the gym Tuesday morning and pumping iron. We want you to wait at least 24 hours. So we'll work on a schedule to incorporate it in there. But I will say, synergistically, Pilates, yoga, we have a lot of people who do that along with EMS. And
almost more a lighter recovery-based protocol outside of seeing the EMS. Interesting.
Absolutely. And if you go to the gym, that's fine. But within 24 hours, we just keep the weights light. It's not because it's going to hurt you. It's because we want to maximize your results. And we all, you and me, being in the fitness industry, we know, and a lot of clients don't understand that constantly going 100% every single day is not going to maximize your gains.
What? I'm not supposed to be in the gym 7 days a week? Come on, Glenn. What?
Exactly. Yeah, and people think that, right? So, they don't realize the importance of recovery. And EMS specifically has a 48 to 72 hour, we call it DOMS, in the industry, delayed onset muscle soreness. So when we're breaking down the muscles during a session, it takes sometimes 48 to 72 hours for those muscles to rebuild. And so after the first couple sessions, we really ask people to, wait a few days. The soreness ultimately goes away, but it's definitely a prevalent part of the training. And I think if you really do the math, I told you before, we could track the muscles 85 times a second. So, even if you look at that math, you multiply that out, second, because it's 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off is how we do it. So if you do the math there, in 20 seconds, you basically have 1,700? Yeah, 1,700 contractions in 20 seconds. Did I just... Yeah. So, so in theory, there's your math.
Dude, I love that. Well, listen, I always take a hot second in the podcast to kind of turn the ship and get to know people outside of business and their expertise and career. Give me a little bit outside of it. You've had this huge, career shift and transition. What dove you into the fitness space after 30 years? And then kind of elaborate on that. Because I have a lot of clients that I see that are unhappy in their career paths, afraid to make a change, afraid to start a business. You've done what a lot of people feel is almost unachievable. Tell me about it.
We could have a whole podcast session on this alone.
Deal.
I'm very mindset driven. I'm very much into growth mindset. Very much into, I could take it so many different directions, but I'm very much in a growth mindset. I got to a point in my career where I was burnt, I was fried, I was uninspired. We'll just call it that. I'm also very goal driven. So I'm growth mindset driven. I'm a very goal driven individual. So I get one thing I kind of glossed over earlier. I really didn't use the word and say it, but when I said I left technology, I got laid off by Salesforce. Okay? Got laid off amongst 8,000 other people globally. And if you rewound that 2 years, I had been ready to move on. I was ready to, I already had that shift in my mind that I want to do something I'm passionate about because technology is fun. It was great. I made an amazing living. I was successful, but it wasn't my passion. So really when I got laid off, it was almost like, I was thankful.
It was a blessing in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise. I first got the email one morning and I said to my wife, I said, oh my God, I just got the email. And she's like, no, you got to be kidding me. You just got laid off. And after about 60 seconds of slow breathing, I turned to her, I said, this is a good thing. They basically did what I've been wanting to do, but didn't have the guts or courage to do because I was in a very comfortable, stable, financially well-off environment, but it wasn't inspiring, but it's just hard when you're comfortable. It's hard to take that leap unless you absolutely have to. So they made the decision for me and it was amazing. And so I was 52 years old at the time. And I immediately said, you know what? I'm going to take 3 months off. I'm not going to do a single thing. Like I didn't take headhunter calls. I didn't do research. I just lived, and I'm a big outdoor adventure guy. I just, went mountain biking and hiking and climbing and did all this amazing stuff. And I didn't want to think anything, just let my mind reset. And then after 3 months, I came back. I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let me go jump into what my passion is. And this has been my passion, health and wellness. So I luckily stumbled upon this opportunity and, the rest is history or, present and future, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, that was my motivation. And on the side, I have a beautiful wife who has a great career. She's an attorney. I got 2 awesome girls. One's junior in high school. One just is starting her first year in college at University of Georgia. And so, I had a real good cohesive family unit at home, and it was just I had to figure out my happiness and my passion and my drive and my career, and that's what inspired it.
That's amazing, man. Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
What was the biggest mindset shift that you had to kind of face or kind of adjust to? Like you said, you're big into being goal-oriented and all that. Like, what was the big mindset shift?
Yeah. So first of all, I will say, by the way, I'll give kudos to an industry that a lot of people don't take advantage of, but I've had a coach, a professional coach, like a leadership coach and professional kind of life coach for many years, which has been amazing. I encourage anybody to just, find one. Mindset shift was getting out of the comfort zone. It was really, I could have just gone in technology. It would have been the easy thing. I would have made a lot of money. It would have been easy. But I had to really push myself out of the comfort zone, and that was the big mindset shift. And even to this day, my wife Jo, my wife gives me a hard time all the time because I'm still building the business, and I invested a lot in this business. And she says to me, if after that layoff, if you had sat on your ass for the last 3.5 years, we'd be financially better off than we are now.
Welcome to owning a business.
Yeah, exactly. But I like pushing myself out of the comfort zone, and I have my goals set in the business. I have my my growth mindset of just always learning, always wanting to learn something new and move forward. So yeah, that's pretty much where it is.
That's amazing, man. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, listen, as I bring this kind of to a wind down, I always like to end it right. This is the Live Vybrant podcast. So I'm trying to inspire and just help people with stories to live a more vibrant life. And that's our new company, it's Vybrant. What do you do each day or each week to live a more vibrant life? And what are 1 or 2 things that you would give as a coach to help someone live a more vibrant life?
Man, I love that question. So what do I do every day? So one is I face challenges head on, and that inspires me. When I see a challenge, instead of looking at the fear and problems that might come out of it, I look at what the solution might be to get through it. And that keeps me motivated. I also believe very strongly, obviously because of the business I'm in health and wellness and fitness. And so I make sure I have a term, 0 days. You ever hear of that?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you can figure out what it is.
For our listeners, though, what does that mean?
So no 0 days basically means there's not a day that goes by that I'm not doing something to further my health and wellness goals. It literally can be 9 o'clock at night. I haven't done anything, I'll drop to the floor and do 30 push-ups. It can be, forgot to eat my veggies, I'm gonna eat my veggies. Just something that it can be physical fitness related, it doesn't have to be, but it's like every day I know I'm going to do something that furthers my health and wellness goals. That's my no zero days.
I love that.
Yeah, so I don't have a choice in the morning. It's not like I wake up and I say, oh, am I going to do something today? It's like, no, it's what am I going to do today? Not whether I'm going to do it, but what am I going to do? So anyway, I digressed off your question, didn't I?
You nailed the what do you do. Now, what would be a recommendation for someone? What's one or two recommendations to help them live a more vibrant life?
Yeah, work on mindset. Work on mindset, whether it's reading good inspirational coaching, inspirational motivational books. If it's hiring a coach, which again, I highly recommend. But mindset to me is everything. It drives your professional career. It drives your happiness with your family. It drives your personal gratitude and satisfaction in life. So that would be my main goal, recommendation is whatever works for you, whether it's reading, listen to podcasts, hiring a coach, just focus on mindset.
Beautiful. I love that. Wow. I can't end it on any better of a note than that. Glenn, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of this with me.
Awesome, Joshua. I appreciate you having me. It's been a lot of fun.